Hey everybody, Matt Michaels here, and I am with the one and only Disco Inferno Glen Gilbertti. How you doing, Glenn?
Pretty good, man. What's going on?
Not much. You know, being here in Las Vegas, you've been here a while now. Snake Pit, you've helped train some of the future stars of wrestling. You've worked a
hmm
little bit with FSW. What have you found in terms of? I know uh, going back quite some time. I think in an interview in 2004 you did where you said that something like booking was something that you like to do.
hmm
How has training guys been for you? Have you enjoyed being able to guide, the younger talent in terms of how to develop a character and what it's, like to be in one of the bigger companies?
Cause yeah, I like it, but I don't do the grunt work training. Like I'm very specific when I would have one class a week at Future Stars of Wrestling, and it was just a very specific class. I would teach punching, kicking, and selling, and character stuff. But because I said, look, if people are gonna train under me, if like you're gonna come out of this FSW system, you're gonna look like as a shoot, you look like you know how to fight. Like you look
Right.
like you know how to throw a punch. You look like you know how to beat. You look like you know how to do it because there's a lot of what you see in wrestling today that we've gotten away from. We've gotten away from the basic skills and
Right.
increase the difficult skills. We do more of the difficult stuff, the springboards and the dives and stuff. You do all that, and like when professional wrestlers do these things, punching, kicking, they don't do it very well because like
Right.
that's not the basics of a wrestling match today. The basic of wrestling match today is just this new term that came about, sequences and spots and stuff, and everything's put together in the back and it's mapped out, it's laid out, and it's just when things break down in a match, you see how green some of these people are, that they can't just pick up where they left off sometimes or call it in the ring and stuff. And that's just a skill that you separate the good workers from the bad workers, I think, with those details, because there's a lot of things that wrestlers do today that I have a lot of pet peeves on that make the product look bad. Because if so
Yeah.
many people, there's a lot of bad habits that so many wrestlers do it that in 9 hours of TV every week, when you're watching this and you're watching this happen over and over, the product itself looks poor. Like what I'm talking about is like when guys like shoot a guy in and go to throw a clothesline, you got to look like you're trying to actually hit the guy with the clothesline. Half the guys you do, they just stick their arm out. It doesn't look like an offensive maneuver. And this other
Right.
spot that everybody, their mother's doing today, where the guy just aimlessly runs at the guy in the rope. It doesn't look like he's trying to attack him or anything, and the guy just backdrops him over the top rope, where the guy lands on the apron. And it looks
Right.
like you see it so much, it just looks very fake in the middle of what they're doing. And they do these spots, and you're not hiding how fake the work looks. And they're slapping their thighs, which is the worst one, because you're basically telling the audience blatantly, "Hey, I'm not making the sound. I'm slapping my leg to make the sound. So this is a fake kick." Like this is
Right.
so, and it's just like you add all that up, and you see it so often, the product looks very poor. So I try to tell when I would train guys, I say we're going to correct our bad habits. If you have a bad habit, we cease it at that point and try to correct the bad habit. But you just see so many bad habits today and nobody correcting them. And
Right.
that's why you see guys like like Chris Bay, Cross, some other guys down there, Damian Drake. These all these guys can throw and sell punches and kicks and stuff because they look like they know how to fight. You know,
Right.
so it's like that's the thing I think that is missing from the training in the product, is trying to make it look more realistic instead of trying to raise the bar higher for the acrobatics and stuff, which is what people apparently think makes a good worker these days, which it doesn't.
you know and focusing, the fact that you had a character that was comedic, but your work rate looked believable. So not only were you good in the ring, but you also were believable as the character because you bought into it and you understood the basics of what you were trying to do story wise. Is it lost art form to some point that when some of these guys walk out of the curtain, you can see that they're basically just going to have a wrestling match.
They
There's
don't even know how
no
to do ring
intent.
entrance. They don't even know how to do ring entrance. Half of them, they don't know how to embrace time. You know, like they walk out on the stage, it looks like they're in a half these guys are. They don't even have a ring entrance. They get there, they hurry up and get to the ring because they have so much stuff called in their match. They have to hurry up and start the match. So they can get all the stuff in. That's what it looks like. You know, like they rush to the ring. They don't know how to like you watch Randy Orton, watch Roman Reigns, and watch green guys do ring entrances, and it's completely night and day. You know, like the pros know how to do it. They know how to stop, get the pose. And the thing is with the ring entrance, these guys don't even realize, bro, you don't have a character, okay, and you're not giving the announcers any time to talk about you at all. You know, me and
Yeah.
Jim Ross, we had Ross on the podcast, and I was telling him, bro, look, you know, Jim Ross is a narrator. That was his skill as a professional wrestling announcer. He would narrate what was going on to deliver the narrative to you, the story that's being told. You know, and like there's so many times now in wrestling, you know, like we'd have Jim in the shows, like, bro, he didn't have time to narrate anything because he's calling one move after another after another. And, you know, and is this, bro? You wonder why these guys have no characters because they're filling their match with all action, and the announcers never have a chance to talk about these guys. You know, it's like people don't realize things like that because when you're green, it just doesn't even compute because you haven't learned these things yet. You know, and it's funny that like these people sometimes aren't even teaching these guys this. You know, it's like you watch the difference. Watch. Here's the difference. You know, NXT, you know, AEW beats NXT in the ratings every week, right?
Right.
And people are going, oh, well, you know, the NXT booking, so you know, and you're watching the two shows, and when you're watching the shows side by side, you know, what we do, there's a definite difference in quality in the show that's doing lesser ratings because the production machine of the WWE, the product looks far superior. The entrances, the characters, the vignettes, everything they do production wise looks very professional compared to AEW, which sometimes look kind of amateurish a little bit, right? But the difference between those two shows is that, you know, one show has more star power. You know, one show has Chris Jericho, has John Moxley stuff. You know, like, bro, you're not going to sit there and tell me that, like, you know, Private Party is like drawing numbers against, Finn Balor, you know, the Undisputed Era. That's like that's not where the difference is. The difference is when Chris Jericho's coming out, you know, with MJF and it's going up against Everrise. You know, like so people, the NXT is too many guys that people just do not know yet. But that's what the whole show is designed for, to try to get you get you to know these people because you watch what they do there. The production machine in WWE gives you a chance in NXT. They give you a lot of vignettes. They give you they give you good ring entries. They give you good music. They give you, you know, they teach you how to be a character, which is what they're doing then there. And you're watching these guys learn. And you know, from a critical guy like me that's booked, it's you know, trained and stuff, everything. I like watching that stuff. I didn't before because I thought most of these guys were green. Then I started watching. It's like, wow, the actual work in NXT is very polished. You know, there's a lot of good detail work on this show, and and plus they're so underrated. But the Undisputed Era are just like four professional wrestlers that never have a bad moment on TV. You know, and you have guys like that, so they produce good television, but just people just don't know them. You know, and it's like, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say along those lines too. One of the things last year you called Cody out on, are you a face or a heel?
Yeah.
And his response was, well, that's the brilliance of wrestling now. You can be either or because it's just about the match, and you know, the fans can react how they want to that match as you're telling the story there. To me, that's like saying, well, you know what? I like the Blues Brothers, but I only like the Blues Brothers because of the musical numbers, and that's what I'm going to focus on, and that's it. And it's like, well, wait, there's a whole flush to these characters and why you're invested, and that really, it just makes me mad because when I trained 20 years ago at UPW, Tom Howard, I mean, he would just lay out everything and how it's supposed to be done. And a guy like Cody, you look at his dad and you go, I get that Cody's trying to do something different and be unique, but at the same time, there's fundamentals in not only wrestling, but just in general storytelling that makes it easier for people to follow and enjoy and to build the product because you do have names. And you're right. Every time I watch NXT, I'm invested because something is pulling at my heartstrings. When I watch AEW, there might be some good stuff, and there there are so many
Well,
people
the
I
show,
love
the
there,
show,
but
and the AW show is just and I called this even before we did this interview. It's like I've seen a couple of things, bro. The guy's a South Park mark. Okay, so the tone of that show is comedic.
right,
I mean, if there's 8 angles on the show, 6 of them have comedic undertones. You know,
yeah,
Cody's stuff is usually serious. Moxley's stuff is usually serious. The rest of the stuff is like it's a punchline. Like the video,
yeah,
you know, like I mean, even like you know, like you said, like Miro laying out the best friends and thing, you know, and it's like, yeah, but this is a guy that's like mad because somebody broke his video game, you know. It's like, you know, so you're literally, so it's like you're looking at a vicious attack and they go, why is he, you know, this guy's a video game player, he's mad that somebody broke his video, and so it's like it's corny, you know. So you can't
yeah,
invest. And the thing is, we're in this era where Meltzer's the dirt sheet guys have cultivated this fan base of critics. They're just critics that
yeah,
rate them at, you know, like movie. You go around, the fans these days are Rotten Tomato users because they're rating
yeah,
everything. You know, just but they're rating the work. You know,
yeah,
the technical aspect, the scientific wrestling. They're rating that, and they've never done this before.
on it,
You know, and then you created this environment where that's all anybody cares about, and they're trying to say, well, the angles don't really mean much as long as you have a good match out there. And it's I would say this to all of these people. I say, where is your evidence that this is successful? Because there's
right,
nothing that, bro. We've taken the lowest numbers in the history of wrestling, and they try to, you know, they spit shined it up and made it sound like, wow, these numbers are great. I'm like, I'm 0.3. I'm like, well, that's a breathalyzer number. I'm like, you know, that's like a joke. We were doing 6.5s. You know, I
right,
mean, like, you know, we had 10, 11, 12 million people watching the show. You know, you guys can't even get a million people to watch this. And you're trying to
yep,
tell me there's never been a better time to be a wrestling fan? Then where are all the fans? You know,
yeah,
if never been a
yeah,
better time to be a wrestling fan, wouldn't there be a lot of fans? We've lost 80% of the fans over the years. And this is research that's been done by Variety Magazine. We have the metrics and we know why people aren't watching. It's because the number one thing is wrestling is too cartoonish. And after every segment that I watch these shows, SmackDown, Raw, and everything that I watch, you know, fast forward through them, whatever I watch, I ask myself at the end of the segment, was that cartoonish or not? Because if people are trying to engage in the product and the cartoonishness is turning them off, are we still giving them too much cartoonishness? And I say, yes, we absolutely are. Way too
yeah,
much. I mean, we had an angle that one of the best angles that wrestling fans were waiting on since AEW started was the veteran, one of the best guys in the history of on the mic, Chris Jericho, against the up and coming stud on the mic, MJF, and instead they just did Saturday Night Live comedy routines the whole time. When we could have seen the two guys, like the old school guy and the new school guys, go back and forth
yeah,
on the mic and they just scrapped it and did comedy, you know. And I'm like, I'm just saying, like, bro, why do you think people? Why don't you have? Why is Raw? Then everybody buries Raw. Everybody buries the WWE. I go, why is it doing twice as many viewers as you then? Why are
yeah,
twice as many people watching that product? You know, I mean, you know, whatever. It's like you guys are not draw. You know, they're bragging about beating NXT. They invented they invented this war that NXT. Bro, has NXT the WWE system? Have they ever? This is funny. Not one from any of their accounts has anybody ever tweeted about the ratings, even when they beat them in a week. This thing is
right,
created by the guys and stuff.
right,
Just because all Vince McMahon did, he found out a new company's going up there. Okay, we're just going to counter program against him, so because that's what promoters do. You know, I'm gonna take my show off the network. I'm gonna put it next to them, so not every, you know, it's just a counter program, and that's all it is.
yeah,
This isn't a war. It's not like
yeah,
NXT's trying to, like, you watch the way they book their show. They're not booking for ratings because they start the
right,
show sometimes with 20-minute matches, and I'm like, bro, you're just giving me a chance to turn the channel here. If this is, you know, like last week, perfect example. They were going to have Edge on the show. I say, oh, they might do a good number. I'm listening to the show the whole time. They're not even mentioning Edge for the first hour of the show. And I'm like,
right,
why would you just started with that and stuff? You know, so they don't book. They're not booking like it's a ratings war. They're not
right,
you know, they're not programming ratings wise. They're just sticking their show on the TV so less people watch the other show. And that's all it is. And people try to make up the Wednesday night wars and stuff. And like, bro, the numbers on the Wednesday night are worse than are combined. They're the lowest of the week. And Wednesday was supposed to be the big night. I go, so the fans aren't even gravitating to Wednesday night when we have the war. They're still watching Raw and SmackDown, even in low numbers. But that's the main shows, And SmackDown is weird. It's a good show. Because some of there's a couple of the angles on there are strong angles that they're doing with great stuff. Roman and stuff. I like the stuff with Dominic. They're doing some good stuff, and it's just fascinating that how can this system produce one show that looks like that, and then you have Raw, and they look like two completely different shows because Raw is just corny, goofy stuff. Miz and Morrison, who are two stars, are doing buddy cop comedy, and I'm just looking at this going, God Almighty, how many times do we have to do serious stuff, watch it work, and think, okay, let's continue down this path, and it's just like I guess because you get all these writers in there and these marks, and they're not from wrestling, and they're not. And they like silly, funny stuff, and everything's silly and funny because that's the way they write. You don't have anybody writing serious drama. I heard Paul and Roman are basically booking this whole thing. That they're doing. So it's like they're doing. And the writers are like fudging the rest of the show because they're doing goofy, corny crap. So it's like I don't know. It's just frustrating to watch wrestling. Become as cartoonish as it has, and the work too looks cartoonish in the road. Everything's funny.
Right.
The work looks nonsensical, stuff and anything. And so when you see stuff like a good brawl every once in a while, like it opens my eyes, so.
Right. That's SmackDown, and thinking of good performers. It's interesting because Sami Zayn is now
excellent stuff.
Me,
by far.
Oh my.
He embraced. Here's the thing about that. Everybody, that's what he's like. He's taking his real life. The guy's a complainer. He's like, they're just doing his real life, and that's why he looks so comfortable doing this gimmick. Is because that's the thing. It's finding guys comfortable in the gimmicks that they're giving them is a breath of fresh air, because you can see just the fright in people's eyes sometimes when they're cutting promos and trying to remember the words and recite the script. It just doesn't look natural. But Sami Zayn stuff is excellent right now.
And that, what I was going to bring it to is that when you were approached with the Disco character, was that something that was an extension of kind of who you are, being that,
not so much. I liked disco music. I wouldn't that I wouldn't think, but it was, to me, because I was a student of the game and I studied wrestling so much growing up. I just said, oh, this is easy. It's just, I'm a mark for the Honky Tonk Man character. The way he produces his character is just, I'm going to just do the exact same thing. Because Honky would do his little dance moves that he would do in the middle. I said, I'm just going to do disco when it's time to do that in the match. And just pattern myself after that character. I'm just, and so it was easy to do the character because I'm just basically doing the Honky Tonk Man, but it's a disco character. It's not the country, it's not a guitar playing character, So then I just did it. So, and then that's how easy it was, so.
Yeah. Being from the East Coast, was there a lot of, you were younger when Saturday Night Fever came out. Do you remember that tail end from the, 79 into 80 when disco did kind of die out? And what was it like for you going into high school at that point then in the 80s? Were you more of a metalhead, or
Classic
what kind of
classic rock?
Classic rock?
Classic rock. I just was. It was. I grew up in an era. If you grew up in the 80s and 90s, you grew up in, during an era of just great music. Like with U2, Led Zeppelin, AC/DC. I mean, there's so many great A-list bands that are still doing it today. 40-something years later, that's how good they are. They're 70 and they're still making. I just grew up in an era of incredible music, and then when I got into wrestling, I started getting in because we were clubbing a lot. I got into EDM music, so some techno and stuff. Yeah, just DJ sets and everything, and that's my music is DJ music. I got a few good DJs I follow, listen to their sets, and I listen to rock and roll, classic rock.
When you do the podcast with Russo, One of the things I like about both you guys is that you guys don't hold back. You guys are honest with your opinions. Is it something that when Vince came over to WCW, did you immediately start a friendship with him? Was he someone you could relate to, or did it take time over the years for you to kind of warm up to
We
each other?
sat next to each other on a plane ride and got to know each other. That was like the
Nice.
start of it. I never probably would have had a conversation with him like that if we hadn't had that like 2 hours on the plane next to each other. But we were
Yeah, because
basically, that's how it started.
it's funny that he gets, such a knock for shit that people don't understand. Um, and you get such a knock for shit people don't
Well,
understand.
brother, this is because the wrestling media is it's just like the regular mainstream media. They're very dishonest people. You know,
Well,
they're
it's
literally trying to paint the picture that Vince was like the worst writer ever. You know, and
right,
like when the evidence is like completely opposite of that. You know, it's
right,
just like they're literally trying to cultivate a fan base of people to try to get them to forget that when Vince started, we were crushing them in the ratings, and Vince started writing the show, and they ended up crushing us in the ratings, right? And
right,
when we were already crushing the ratings because Vince crushed us, we brought Vince and Ed came over to us,
right,
and it took him a year to beat us in the ratings, and we didn't give him any time, and he never got a chance. But all they're basing their history of Vince Russo is the time he spent in WCW. And that
exactly.
defines his career. When he, if you think about how ridiculously illogical their argument is, like, bro, the guy wrote the show that crushed your show. Then he went
Yeah,
over to try to help your show get the ratings back against the show that he just crushed, and they gave him like a 3-month period, a 6-month period. That was it. And it's like you didn't give the guy any time, and we're trying to say, well, that he was terrible. It's like, bro, you didn't
and
give the guy like it's like this is like if you took like I always say, like, is Vince Russo the worst writer ever? Right? If we took that to a court of law and like argued it in front of a judge and jury and like presented all the evidence, it would be a laughable case that they would even be
right.
bringing the case against him. It's ridiculous.
And on top of that, he came in to replace Bischoff, who WCW was not happy with at the time. And then you all of a sudden think Russo isn't doing what you brought him in to do. And who do you bring back? The guy you had replaced. There was no logic to a lot of
No.
stuff going on with the inside workings. I know you gotta head out really quick. I just wanted to get you on for a little bit, talk a little wrestling, and hopefully we can do this again sometime. And you know, uh, again, your podcasts are great. Being with Conan is one of the coolest combinations out there,
Yeah.
and the stuff you do with Vince is great. And I encourage everyone to follow you on social media, as well as listen to the shows. And how are you doing in terms of dealing with the Vegas shutdown? Have you still been able to?
Oh, we're back. Our club opened up November 13th. So with
Okay,
social distance protocols and everything. So it's like
perfect.
we've been back to I've been back to work. Our club is open. It's not topless anymore. It's just a bikini bar. There's no lap
Yeah,
dancing. And it's just we've been fine. We've been doing well. Yeah.
awesome. That's good to
So
hear.
cool.
All right, bud. I
I'm in.
appreciate everything, man. And for all you listeners and viewers, thank you very much for tuning in,
Let
and
me
we'll
give
see
my
you
shout. Let
next.
me give my plugs here.
Yep.
About if you want to follow
Yes,
me, I'm on
please.
at the real Disco on Twitter and at Disco Bastard GG on Snapchat, and Instagram. I'm hardly ever on Snapchat. Instagram, I do some stuff. Also, you can catch me Keep It 100 with Conan drops Thursdays on Spreaker and MLW Radio, and also our Patreon is Conan.me, KONNAN.me. A lot of fan interaction, a lot of roundtables with fans and stuff, and tons of content. We put so much content out there, it's ridiculous. So check that out. And also, I do the shows with Vince. Time Out is on his the Russo brand. Um, what's the TWC? What's it called? Truth or Con? Russo brand TWC. His Patreon, and I'm on
Yeah,
the Realm Network. My show Lions, Tigers, Bears, and Disco that drops Friday. We do all the news of the week and stuff with him and Jeff Lane.
excellent, man. Appreciate it, and brother, can't wait to see what else is going on in the future with you. And man, keep it up.
Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.
Peace.
All right, everyone, have a great time, and we'll see you next time,
All right,
or
man. Later
something
on.
like that.
All right, thanks.
All right, brother. I appreciate it, man. Take
All
care
right,
of
take
yourself.
care. Bye bye.